All right. So with that, I get to get on the horn and meet up with Senator Bill Cassidy. Hello, Senator.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're so welcome, sir. You're a prolific senator, my man. Yeah, not only the medical world, but you have been doing a lot of work. And I thought, as I said earlier, we always hear from senators in every state from your own delegation. It's nice to hear from other senators from other states that have different viewpoints and different actions. So welcome to that crowd.
Hey, I thank you for having me. And I'll kind of echo that. I commonly speak to people in my own state or across the entire nation through national media, but it is nice to speak to another state besides my own, my great state of Louisiana.
That's great. Now, let me ask you to give everybody a basic background on you, Senator. Louisiana, big state, a lot of stuff going on. Where do you hail from in Louisiana?
So I'm from Baton Rouge. A little bit about myself. I'm a medical doctor, a gastroenterologist. My last line on the campaign trail is that gastroenterology prepared me very well for Washington, D.C. I tell folks, if you're under 50, you may not get the joke, but just you wait.
Oh, baby.
I did my work in a public hospital system for the uninsured. As you might guess, I care deeply about health care. Mm-hmm. But have also done a lot of work since being in the Senate on things about water transportation, for example. A lot of those agricultural goods out of Iowa, as your listeners know, go internationally out of the ports in the lower Mississippi and based in Louisiana. So we're very concerned about that. A lot of work on energy. Again, your state has ethanol and wind energy. My state takes that ethanol and blends it into gasoline. So we have a lot of common issues that go there. And then aside from that, just kind of the overall economic development of our country. How do we get so that the Americans who didn't do that well over the last 8 years under President Obama continue to do better and better under President Trump? And that's another focus of my activity.
Well, one of the things, Senator, and I'd like to get your feedback on this. It seems to me that this midterm election is not about individual campaigners or politicos. This seems to me to be a midterm that is dedicated to a confidence vote, if you will, for the current administration, meaning that it's more important to have the R or the D next to your name than it is about any of your policies. Do you sense that in America today?
You broke up just a little bit, but I think I heard you say this election is almost a national election, or you're a Republican or a Democrat.
Right, that's it.
Let me just say it a little differently, how I think it should be viewed. Over the 8 years of President Obama, the economy did not work for those who are less well off. If you're rich, you did great under Obama. If you were a working family, not so good. I actually think this election should be viewed as a referendum on the policies of the last 2 years that I think have worked well for our country. We have record low unemployment among Hispanics, among blacks, among veterans. We have record low unemployment, which is to say record high employment of high school dropouts. We have record employment of women. I could go down the list. Now, do we want more policies which create economic opportunity for people who have been left behind over the previous 8 years? I think so. And I just saw a good article about wage growth, because wages are beginning to grow. It's actually wage growth that's happening among working families. 5% of the wage, people, if you put it differently, people in the lower economic levels, income levels, their wages have grown 5%, and those in the top income levels, less so. Why? There's a shortage of people to do manufacturing, construction, and mining jobs. And so those folks are getting competition for their labors. Their wages are growing. That's a good thing. I hope when people go to the ballot, it won't be R or D. It won't be I like Trump or I don't like Trump. It'll be, do we want this economic growth to continue? If that's the case, then I feel optimistic about the future.
Now, looking at the most current situations in Washington, D.C., we had the Kavanaugh debacle, what I refer to it as. I know a lot of people, at least here in the Midwest, are looking at Washington with really a sad look, that it's just upside down. It's just hate-filled. It's nobody's going to budge. There is no such thing as compromise. It's just an ugly we against them, the Hatfields and the McCoys. You are there on a daily basis, and you are there representing the fine people of Louisiana. What do you see, Senator Cassidy, going on in Washington today?
So there's actually some of what you just described, but there's a lot more things happening that is good than people typically realize. So, for example, if we just want to speak over the last 2 years, this Congress has been very productive. Of course, we passed the Tax Cut and Jobs Act bill, but that was a partisan vote. We also repealed 13 or 16 different regulations that would have cost employers $64 billion in compliance costs. Well, that's a lot. That money's going into raising wages and creating opportunity as opposed to paying lawyers and lobbyists. That's a good thing. But we also passed the Federal Aviation Administration reauthorization bill. Oh, that's good. We also have funded the Army Corps of Engineers, building lots of water projects, in my state, I suspect in Iowa as well. That's been passed. We've also had hurricane relief. We've had a water resources bill come out. We just signed into law an opioids bill, the latest of several pieces of legislation, creating resources for states and communities to battle the scourge of opioids. I can go down the list, but there's been a lot of stuff done, most of it on a bipartisan basis, that has been the people's business. So it's not all partisanship. There's a lot of good things as well.
Now, speaking of drugs and prescription, Senator, I know that we just recently passed another Cassidy co-sponsored bill to help with money on prescriptions. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh, there's been something in place called Gagged Club, and by the way, Chuck Grassley does great work in this space. But in the Gagged Club space, a pharmacist was not allowed to tell a patient that she would save money if she paid cash instead of her insurance co-insurance. Mm-hmm. Think about that.
Right,
By contract with the insurance company, the pharmacist could not tell you. If you pay cash, it's $70. If you pay your insurance co-insurance payment, it's going to cost you $120. Now that is a real live example. You save $50 on one prescription because you pay cash, but the pharmacist wasn't allowed to tell you that. The president just signed into law forbidding this from happening. Now the pharmacist can work on your behalf and not on the insurance company's behalf, saving you money, taking care of your pocketbook as well as your health. That's a good thing.
Another quick question. Did you need to take a break there on that, Jeff? Is that what you were saying? Okay. Senator, hang on. We got to take a quick break here. We'll be back with more with Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana. Fascinating discussion. Be right back. Our news of the day is we have Senator Bill Cassidy representing Louisiana on the horn. We got him for a few more minutes, and I want to thank you again, Senator, for taking time out of, I know, a busy schedule to join us for a little bit. One of the big issues going on now, and it's sort of taken the back seat to everything else that's been going on in our world, but the Caravans headed this way. We even have another Caravan 2.0 coming up from out of Honduras. We're going to have to face the piper here real soon. How are we going to face the piper, Senator? Or would you agree with Donald Trump? Just shut it down, shut that border, shut the door, don't let anybody in.
We have got to protect our borders. If not, the entirety of Central America will come to our country. And what we know under President Obama is that once somebody is processed into our country, there's a 95% chance that they will stay. And I can promise that every person in that caravan has been coached by attorneys as to what to say in order to achieve refugee status. Now, Americans, Charlie, are generous people. If somebody's under persecution in their home, we want them to be protected. But this is something which is being financed by somebody. Mike Pence says that there are reports from Honduras that it's Venezuela, being financed by somebody in a direct assault upon our sovereignty. And by the way, people think the president is being harsh. One, you got to protect your borders. But two, the president actually offered a deal on DACA, which was more the children who came here when very young, brought by their parents. This is the only country they've ever known. The president actually offered a deal on DACA, more generous than that offer by President Obama. But the only thing he said to Democrats is, I want to secure our southern border. If Democrats had agreed to that, not only would the children, the DACA children, if you will, had their needs addressed, but our border would be secured, and we would not are in the process of being secured, and this issue would not be the issue it is today. Someone's trying to embarrass the president just in time for the election. That's too bad, but we've got to protect our border.
Well, with that, I got to speak about the culture of Washington again. This president is dramatically different than any president that we've had in modern history that anybody can remember.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, you think? And that brings up, there are quite a few in the House and in the Senate that are rhino, do you not think? That are saying, yep, I agree with all this on the campaign trail, but then when it comes time to lower the hammer, they don't do it.
Well, you get elected to represent the people you represent. And so I can accept that somebody in New Jersey or California may feel differently about an issue than someone in Iowa. And really, that's the genius of our founding fathers. So I'm not going to condemn one of my colleagues if she or he is representing a district which is a little different than the president. For example, if you're in New York, maybe you didn't vote for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act bill because a lot of folks in your state might end up not benefiting as much. I get that. But as Ronald Reagan said, we want the most conservative person. I think Bill Buckley said this. I want the most conservative person in any given district. And so, Charlie, I'm not going to be quite as harsh because sometimes you got to represent the people you represent.
Gotcha. And speaking earlier, we spoke of this is a far different presidency than any can remember in modern times. And I got to believe most people in their history of being alive can remember this kind of way a president conducts himself. When you look at it from a distance, you go, okay, he's forthright. He's a brawler. He's a straight talker, yada, yada, yada. Are we just so used to soft civility, soft politically correctness from our president in this country that we just are overwhelmed by somebody who just stands up and pounds their chest?
I think the people that love Trump feel like we've gotten to a point in our country where you can't speak truth. And if you do speak truth, you're condemned by the left. You're made to feel guilty by the left. Oh, even though it's true, you shouldn't have the thought. That is absurd. And it takes someone like Trump to kind of say, oh, wait a second. This is truth. You may not like it. I'm going to say it anyway. There's an old quote, nothing is ever accomplished by a reasonable man. Trump is being at times very unreasonable in his insistence that something be said, even if the left attempts to make you feel guilty about saying something which folks tend to think is true.
How do you get along? How do the Republicans in general, the conservative Republicans, get along with their Democratic colleagues in Washington today?
I look for common ground myself. This Gagged Clause law, which actually gives power to the patient as opposed to the insurance company. I got nothing against insurance companies, but you're not gagging pharmacists from telling a patient how she can save money. So that was a bipartisan bill. And so there's some things which we can find common ground. I work to find that common ground. There's other things we just fundamentally disagree, and we're going to disagree. There was not a single Democratic vote for the Tax Cut and Jobs Act bill, even though it has spurred an economy to have the kind of growth we're having now, which is lifting the votes for folks who, as I said earlier, did not do well over the previous 8 years. So there's some things where we go to our corners, but there's a lot more that we work together on.
You mentioned Charles Grassley, Senator Grassley, earlier. I can tell you from this perspective in Iowa, after the Kavanaugh hearings, there was a great injection of respect for him. He's been our senator since the cows came home. And there was this thought of he really displayed himself as a statesman from a man from Louisiana. Would you agree?
Totally. We have a couple of lunches during the week in which all Republicans get together and talk about what's going on. During the hearing, after one particularly contentious time, when Senator Grassley handled himself so well, he walked into that lunch, and all the Republican senators stood up, gave him a standing ovation. that was the respect we gave him and just felt for him for how he handled giving Judge Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford a fair chance to be heard, but at the same time respecting the fact that it wasn't supposed to be a zoo. It was actually supposed to be a Senate hearing, and so therefore asking others to behave that way.
We're in on the eve of this midterm election. Let's say it gets all said and done. Let's say Republicans continue House and Senate control. Health insurance, still a big issue. We don't seem to have a handle on it yet. Do we, Senator? Are we going to get a handle on health insurance?
We need to. I keep using the example. A couple of years ago, I think you have 99 counties.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, like 95 of them did not have an insurance company that would write insurance on the exchange. I'm sure premiums have skyrocketed under Obamacare. Republicans have done some good things for that. This will be the first year that nationally insurance premiums on the individual exchange don't increase. In some states they are, but overall nationally they are not. We've actually put in an alternative. If some young man's healthy, couldn't afford an Obamacare policy, he can get a major medical. So if he gets in a car wreck, he's protected from bankruptcy. So we actually have gotten some solutions out there for folks who currently they don't have solutions. We need to do more. We're trying to do more, but that is a partisan issue. Democrats don't want anything to change unless it's single payer. But I think we'll get to where we can actually do some good things.
All right, we're running up against the top of the hour here, and we're going to have to part company. So, Senator, it's elevator speech time. You and I are in an elevator. We're going up, and I say, hey, where are you from? And you go, Louisiana. And I say, what's the best thing about Louisiana?
I would say the best thing about Louisiana are the people. If you come to South Louisiana or North Louisiana, you're going to be welcomed with open arms. You're going to find some great food, some great music, some great hospitality, and folks are going to be so appreciative that you are visiting our state, perhaps listening to jazz in New Orleans or having etouffee in Lafayette or in Natchitoches, Louisiana, having a Natchitoches meat pie. But you're going to have a good time down in Louisiana.
Well, Senator Bill Cassidy out of Louisiana, I want to thank you for working with me and getting this said and done, and it's been a pleasure talking to you with you. And after the election, I hope everything's going well, and let's keep moving the ball forward.
We love that, Charlie. Look forward to speaking to you again, man.
All righty. Thank you, Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana.